Shelley and Keats a comparison. Both Shelley and Keats were contemporary poets of the second Romantic generation who showed early promise, attained the maturity of their powers when quite young, remained generally unrecognized before their death, which was in both cases premature, and were interned in the same Roman cemetery. Both were great lyric poets, keenly appreciative of beauty in nature and art, and influenced by the Hellenic spirit. For these reasons, it is not unnatural that their names are often associated together. Both were great lyric poets, but Shelley was perhaps the greater of the two. Indeed, Shelley has been called the most poetical of poets and is generally regarded as the greater lyric poet in the English language. Swinburne says of him, Shelley outsang all poets on record. He was alone the perfect singing god. His thoughts, words, deeds all sang together. He holds the same rank in lyric as Shakespeare in dramatic poetry, supreme and without a second of his race. But the odes and sonnets of Keats go far to prove the greatness of Keats' lyrical powers. Swinburne himself has said of the odes, greater lyric poetry the world may have seen than any that is there in these odes. Lovelier, surely, it has never seen, nor ever can it possibly see. Keats was a conscious and deliberate artist, more of an artist than Shelley, who was hours from polishing and retouching the first form of his poems. Keats believed that poetry should surprise by fine excess rather than by singularity, and in keeping with these statements is his advice to Shelley, you might curb your magnanimity and be more of an artist and load every rift of your subject with ore. Shelley trusted more to inspiration, and it was always the subject which impelled him to write. The artistic perfection which we find in many of Shelley's poems, such as the Ode to the West Wind, should be attributed more to accident than to conscious artist effort. The odes of Keats, however, prove Keats' deliberate artistry, but we must not accentuate the difference, for Shelley too was an artist and an admirable critic of poetry. Now, rather I would say, the poetry of both the poets contains magnificent descriptions of nature which testify to their keen appreciation of the beauty of external nature, while Keats describes her in her common sensuous aspects. Shelley prefers to depict her in her more unusual aspects. In Keats, we get descriptions of fields and forests and flowers, bright colors and rich perfumes and melodious sounds. Shelley gives us descriptions of clouds, tempests, oceans, and the radiancy of the heavens. Hence, Shelley, in his description of nature, is vague, ethereal, sublime. Keats is concrete, quiet, homely. Their attitude to nature is difficult too. Where Shelley intellectualizes nature, writes Compton Rickett, Keats is content to express her through the senses, the color, the scent, the touch, the buzzing music. These are the things that stir him to his depths. Shelley believed in a sort of pantheism and held that all universe was alive and that every part of it had its own particular life in the whole. There was nothing spiritual or mystical in Keats' feelings for nature. His was a wholehearted love for her sensual aspects, but he reintroduces into English poetry old Greek idea that trees and streams are haunted by naiads and nymphs. Both were romantic poets with the noblest classical spirit, the true Hellenic spirit, as contrasted with the pseudo classicism of the school of Pope. But Shelley had perhaps more of Greek enthusiasm than Greek spirit, unlike Keats, in whom the Greek spirit seems to have been born with him. Shelley once said Keats was a Greek, and Hellenism was more of a creed with Keats than with Shelley. Keats knew no Greek, and his knowledge of Greek was derived from classical dictionaries, translations, and sculptures in the British Museum, while Shelley was a scholar deeply read in Greek poetry and philosophy. The Greek spirit in Keats is seen, among other things, in his choice of Greek themes, his attitude to nature. It has been said he never saw a tree without seeing the hamadryad concealed in it, and his worship of beauty. But in the matter of style, Shelley had almost alone the secret of a truly classical simplicity, the style of Keats, who held that poetry should surprise by a fine excess, has nothing Greek about it. See you in the next part. Thanks.